Hello.
How you doing tonight?
Chillin'. What's up?
Hey, so I guess I want to start with is that I guess we can agree that um, gender and sex is men and women have been more of a social construct set up by society for us to view what we think a woman is and what we think a man is based on certain physical attributes. Correct?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I guess following up on that line of logic, we've also agreed that age is also a social construct because people mature at different times in their lives. They reach a level of maturity. I would say that I know some 16-year-olds that are more mature than some 24-year-olds that I know. Can we agree that you reach a certain level
I
of
wouldn't
maturity based
say
on your age?
age is um a social construct. I'd say that different identities surrounding age would be. So like what it means to be a child would be a social construct. But age just
Okay.
refers to the amount of times you've orbited the sun.
Okay, but society tells us, you have to be 18 to smoke, you have to be 18 to drink,
Yeah,
or
so
you have to
different
legally to
different
do those
different
things.
like rules surrounding those ages would be a social construct, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So when would you think that a necessary age for someone to receive gender affirming care would be?
Whenever they need it, depending on the type of care.
Okay, like there's no certain age, so a 5 or 6-year-old could receive gender affirming care if they thought it was necessary for
Yes.
themselves.
No, if their
Okay.
doctors or
Um,
parents think it's necessary, yeah. But
oh, okay.
not if
All
the
right.
child thinks it's necessary. It would be determined by doctors, parents, typically therapists, endocrinologists, parent. Like these would be who decides these things.
Therapists, but a lot of therapists can be subjective. They can subject their own opinions and feelings into the things that they're giving therapy for.
I would disagree when it comes to something that's as something like gender affirming care in a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, because there's very strict requirements you have to meet to be diagnosed gender dysphoric. So I would just disagree on that
Interesting.
in that regard. If you haven't read the
Okay.
DSM-5, I would just like read through it because it has very distinct diagnostic criteria for that.
I understand, but your personal feelings can always get in the way of those things.
Your personal
Like a
how so?
therapist can let their own the way that they think because they're allowed to be however they want to be. So if you have a therapist who doesn't believe in gender affirming care, dealing with kids with gender affirming care, their goal is going to be to convince the child that they don't need gender affirming care and that they just don't. And then someone who is about gender affirming care would try to sway the kid in the direction of, yes, you definitely need gender affirming care. This is your issue.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you
Sure.
you're
Let
saying
me let me
there's like an inherent bias in like medicine? Sure. That's all
Okay,
medicine.
great. So we can agree that if your 5-year-old child was having a feeling of they might not feel like a boy or they might not feel like a girl, and they go to seek therapy, the therapy could be different based on who they go and see for the therapy. The
Sure.
parents might find someone who is going to help sway the child away from those feelings. Another parent might take their kid to someone who's going to sway their child towards those feelings, correct?
Sure. I
So
don't
in
really
that
know what this has
aspect,
to do with, but okay.
we can say that therapy for gender affirming care is crap because it could go either way. It just depends on
Wait,
the
so
therapist that's
do you
giving the
just
care
think
and what the
all
parents want.
do you just think all therapy is crap?
I mean, yeah. Well, no. I mean,
Well, because
obviously not. But
this would
people are going to put their own
wait,
bias in there.
this would be the case for all therapy.
No, because this is a decision between two different things. This isn't a decision whether you have a psychological issue or not. This is
Well,
an issue whether a boy is a boy or a girl is a girl. That's the
that's not
difference.
the yeah, what's up?
Where's the cord to the monitor?
Do you like the power cord?
Yeah. I was like, yo, monitors don't work without power cords.
That's not it. I have an extra one here somewhere. I just have to find it. There you go. Should be. I'm sorry. What were we saying?
It's all right. Um, so my point is that when it comes to gender affirming care, all right, parents are going to take their kids to a therapist who is going to sway that child in the way that the parents think that the kid should be swayed.
That's not true at all.
I think you're wrong. If I thought that my kid, if my kid came to me, okay, and my kid was saying things like that, and I thought I don't have these issues, and my kid had this issue, and I would say, okay, I'm going to take you to a therapist. When I would look for a therapist for my kid, I'd look for a therapist who is going to help make my kid understand that they're not. You're not a boy if you're a girl and you think you're a boy, you're still
but again,
a girl.
this would be a therapist that's not doing their actual job. That's not how gender dysphoria is diagnosed, like at all.
What do you mean? Therapy is extremely subjective.
Wait,
Therapists back in the 20s.
have you read the
Therapists in the
DSM-5 and
20s.
how you
Hold
have
on.
you?
Hold on. Therapy in the 20s, you had multiple different types of therapists who had multiple different types of thinking that would sway people in multiple different directions based on their own personal feelings.
Great. So that the reason I tried to interrupt you there is because what you just said has nothing to do with my point. We have a specific diagnostic manual that has specific criteria for how someone gets diagnosed with gender dysphoria, specifically children. They have to meet 6 very specific criteria in order to be diagnosed gender dysphoric. So if your therapist is just diagnosing you however they want, they should receive a malpractice suit.
Okay. My point is, I want to make it clear that I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with someone who has really thought about it, and someone who has come to the conclusion that they don't feel like they're a boy, or they don't feel like they're a girl. They feel like they were born in the wrong body, anything like that. I don't have any issues with people. You be what you want to be. Everybody can be who they want to be. My issue is when it comes to kids. All right. Everybody's dragging kids into this. When I was a teenager, I thought I was a vampire. So I dressed in black and I painted my eyebrows. That didn't make me a vampire. All right. That didn't make me that. That's not what it was. It was me having an issue internally.
Being a vampire
but now the problem
would not
is that
be
when
part of the
someone is
human
having that
experience, so I
issue,
wouldn't.
when someone is having that issue, a bunch of people didn't come coddle me and say, "Oh, you are a vampire. You're this and that. We need you to go in that way." So why do we do that when it comes to gender?
I don't. That's.
Wait, can you go get me the monitor?
Oh, it's already hooked up.
Oh, I'll be there in a second. Yeah, vampires fall outside of the human experience, so I wouldn't say somebody can identify as a vampire. It falls outside of the human experience.
Well, why can't I identify as a vampire? Vampires were a
only
really real
identify
thing.
as human things. Vampires were never real.
What do you mean they can only identify as human things? I can identify as whatever I want to.
Humans can only
If I want to say I'm a tree and go plant my feet in the ground, who's going to stop me?
You wouldn't be a tree.
Why?
Because humans can only identify as things that are distinctly human. We do not understand the experience of these other things. We only know the experience of humans.
Okay, so you are not okay with the litter boxes that are at the schools in northern Kentucky?
I don't think there are any litter boxes.
People who think they're cats.
I think there are zero.
There are in Kenton County. They had to put a litter box in the school.
Yeah, I don't.
They eventually took it out.
I don't believe that story.
Well, you can look it up. It was on Channel 12 News, Channel 9 News, Channel 19
the
News.
News can lie, right?
Okay.
Here, let's do a quick. Let's do a fact check. Litter boxes in schools. Fact check. No evidence of schools accommodating furries with litter boxes. A claim that schools are placing litter boxes in student restrooms for those who identify as furries is circulating on social media again. The latest claim appears to originate in an October episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, where host Joe Rogan told former U.S. Representative Tulsi Gabbard a story about litter boxes at an unidentified school. However, there's no publicly available evidence that proves schools are providing litter boxes to self-identified furries anywhere in the U.S.
Kenton County Schools in northern Kentucky. Look it up.
Superintendent denies rumors of litter boxes in restrooms for students who identify as cats.
Because the school board had them removed after the complaints were made.
No, they denied it ever happening.
But they can lie. You just said they can lie,
They
so
quite literally, the school board denied it ever happening. So who would I believe in this regard?
I don't know the kids who came home and told their parents that there were litter boxes in the bathrooms.
Okay. Well, when you first of all, when you type in Kenton County school litter box, like nothing comes up about Kenton County. Just FYI.
In Kentucky?
Correct.
Yeah, that's where it happened.
Well, unfortunately, there's nothing online to prove that you're correct. Nothing shows that it happened. There's no news article about it. There's nothing.
Well, there is a news article about it. There's a news article saying that they denied it.
No, when I finished reading, because I didn't get a chance to finish reading, this was from a school in Iowa. There's quite literally nothing about Kenton County schools in Kentucky. Nothing.
Well, that's interesting because we went through it here. Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Could it have been that kids lied and parents believed the kids lying to their faces? Did you see the litter box?
Wait. So kids can lie?
All the time.
So if a kid says that they feel like they're a girl, they could be lying?
They could be, yes.
Oh. How do you figure out if they're lying or not?
It's a pretty exhaustive process. It's called getting diagnosed with gender dysphoria. It has 6 very distinct criteria. I remember we talked about this already, right? Or I would just say, are they persistent in this gender identity? Is their gender identity something? Because even if they don't have gender dysphoria, is their gender identity something that they're persistent in? If they're persistent in it for like more than a year, probably not lying. I've never met a kid who can hold up a lie for more than 5 minutes, let alone a year. Have you ever talked to a kid and when you know they're lying, pretty easy to catch them in a lie?
Okay. Sure. All right. Well, we'll move on. I'll move on from that. Like I said, I don't care what people do. I just don't like the kids being dragged into all this stuff. Never have. I think kids being dragged into stuff is dumb. Abolish police and prisons. I'm with you. Let's abolish police and prisons. Let's enact vigilantes. And let the vigilantes handle the world. We'd have all the criminals gone in a couple months.
I don't want the criminals.
There's no police
gone.
to stop them and no prisons to put them in.
I don't want criminals gone. I want criminals reformed.
Oh, okay. So a murderer should just be reformed. They're just confused.
No, reformation and like rehabilitation doesn't mean they're confused. It means we want to rehabilitate them in order to be like productive members of society.
Say again.
It means we want to rehabilitate them to be productive members of society.
I don't think I want someone who murdered someone to be rehabilitated and become a productive member of society.
Okay.
I'd rather if you kill someone, you just go ahead and face the firing squad.
61% of all people that are victims of violent crimes, they also want the perpetrators to receive rehabilitation. I don't want revenge. You just want revenge. You just want to be able to do the violence that they're doing, but you want to be able to do the violence legally.
I don't want to do it. I'm just saying that the vigilantes would take over and the criminals would be gone.
You absolutely want it. You want it to happen.
And then that would create new criminals.
You absolutely want it to happen.
No, you do. You want to abolish the police. There's nobody to stop them.
You quite literally just said, I want them to get the firing squad. I'm sorry. It
does. What, people who murder somebody?
Yeah, you want them to get the firing squad.
Yes, if you murder someone, I don't think you should be alive.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay. But if you abolish police, how are you going to stop it?
There are a lot of different replacement methods to policing. Abolishing police does not mean we are getting rid of police and we are not replacing it with some other form of social safety net. It just means that the current system of policing in prison, the current carceral system in the United States, is focused more on retributive justice and focused more on capital than it is on actually stopping crime, preventing crime, or focusing on transformative and restorative justice. So we want this system abolished and to replace it with another system.
And what's the system that you would like to replace it with?
A system of transformative and restorative justice as opposed to a system of retributive justice.
So just out of curiosity, someone's being beat to death or being robbed. Who are you going to call?
Well, in the system that we're working with, there are multiple different people that you would call. You could call a violence interrupter. You could call community alert systems. You can call like loads of different things. This is a very long conversation. If you want to like get into like the ins and outs of like every little thing we would be here for like 20 hours. If you want a
What's a
broad
violence
overview,
interrupter?
what is a violence interrupter? So they're
Yeah, what's
trained.
a violence
It would be
interrupter?
trained individuals, often with backgrounds similar to people who serve, who work in like intervention programs, who go in and de-escalate violence. They would be trained specifically in de-escalation, and they would go in. They are of the community that the person committing the offense is from, so that they can more easily relate to that person, and they would help de-escalate the situation.
Oh, so while this person's being murdered, they're going to go in and de-escalate the situation.
If the person's being murdered, how are they calling the police in the first place?
Well, I mean, there are people who are having a violent act committed against them that can call the police before they are murdered.
Okay. If they're being murdered, your hypothetical is
Okay.
falling apart.
Let's put it in terms. A person calls the police and says, "I'm being attacked by my boyfriend." They send out someone to de-escalate it, and they get murdered because they send out someone to de-escalate it.
That's what cops should be doing now. Do you think cops shouldn't de-escalate situations? So the cops
Absolutely, they should de-escalate
so the cops should just show
situation.
up and start blasting?
So why can't the cops just de-escalate the situation?
Because they don't. That's part of the issue.
How do you know the violence interrupters will?
Because they would be trained in de-escalation, not shoot.
Police
first,
are
ask
trained in
questions. No,
de-escalation.
they're trained to shoot first,
Yes, they
ask
are.
questions
They
later.
have to take de-escalation training. It's a requirement.
Yeah, they're not trained in de-escalation. That would be a gross.
They are required to take de-escalation training.
I never said they weren't. I said they're not trained in de-escalation. Like de-escalation is not the way that they are trained, right? When when cops are trained, they're trained to use their gun. That's what they're trained to do. And that's why most cops will use their guns first. In fact, I actually have a study on this. Let's see if I can pull it up.
I like the word most cops. You know how many cops there are in the United States?
A decent amount.
Do you know the number? Do you know how
decent
many of
amount.
them have pulled their guns and shot somebody?
It has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
It's absolutely what you just talked about. You just said most. Give me a number that proves you made the comment. So give me the number that proves that most cops go for their gun first.
Here it is. Pulled it up. Training officers to shoot first and ask questions later.
Where's the source?
It's in my link tree in my bio. So you can actually go to my link tree in my bio. It's right in there.
What I'm asking you to just tell me what the source is. I'll go look it up later.
Yeah, it's a New York Times article about training officers to shoot first and ask questions later.
So it's not a .gov. I'm going to use the typical leftist standpoint here. If it's not a .gov or .org or a good source, I'm not going to believe it. It's just not real.
Just FYI, if any leftist looks at you and says it's not a .org or .gov, they're a fucking idiot. That's not how you source information. It's not about is it a .org or .gov. It's about looking at the article and seeing if the article's information that it provides is accurate or not. Be so for real.
Sure, but how do you know if it's true?
Articles source things. You recognize this, right?
Like that's great, but if I'm an article and I source something from Wikipedia,
an article typically will have this fun little thing where it highlights the things it's talking about, and you can click on that, and it will take you to the things that it's talking about.
Yeah, but I've done that before, and it's taken me to a Wikipedia page. So you're saying a Wikipedia page is now a source?
Yeah, guess what? You go to the bottom and look at where Wikipedia is sourcing its information from. Wikipedia also has
change
sources.
Anything on Wikipedia?
No, you can't. Wikipedia, do you know how much? Oh, I'm not getting into this. No, you can't just change Wikipedia page and it stays like that forever. That's not how Wikipedia works.
Okay.
Wikipedia literally has an entire list of sources at the bottom of every page. Mm-hmm. Wikipedia is the most moderated website on the internet.
But it's not considered a credible source for citing. If I cited
That's not true.
in a college paper,
colleges will take Wikipedia.
No, they don't.
Now.
No, they don't.
Yes, they will.
No, they don't. They specifically tell you not to cite Wikipedia as a source.
Some colleges will take Wikipedia now. They absolutely will.
Okay, some. You just said most colleges.
I didn't say most. Some. I didn't say most. I just said colleges. I never said the word most.
Okay, colleges in general will not accept Wikipedia as an established source.
There are plenty that will.
But some of them do not think that it's a credible source. So why does that college get to choose what they consider a credible source to be?
I'm sorry?
Why do you get to choose what a credible source is? If somebody down the road tells me something.
Wikipedia sources its stuff.
Well, hold on a second. You just said that, but you get to choose what source you believe, correct?
What are you talking? That's not how verifying sources works. Do you know how to
Sure, it is
if
because
I'm just going to
sources
ask you
can
a
be
quick question. I'm going
wrong.
to ask you a quick question. I want you to
Sure.
provide me a source of something. How would you verify that that source is correct?
Well, what do you want me to provide you a source for?
Just pick a random thing.
The current state of the economy,
How would you verify this current state of the economy?
the government website that talks about the current state of the economy.
So you would only accept a .gov source on this.
For that, yes.
Okay. What would you accept in terms of if I wanted to know a source for the amount of police killings a year? What would you accept on this?
The Department of Justice.
Only the Department of Justice? You wouldn't accept a third
Well, I mean, if you could,
independent auditor?
no, not on something like that because someone could lie. A third independent auditor can lie.
Why couldn't the Department of Justice also just lie?
They absolutely 100% can lie.
Okay, so how do you know which information is correct?
Exactly. So where do you get your information from then? If you're telling me that
Why
the
are you just
Department of
flipping?
Transportation,
I'm asking you a very specific question, and instead of answering, you're just flipping it back
answered
on
it.
me. You didn't.
Yes, exactly. I answered your question.
You
The
didn't.
Department of
Actually.
Justice can lie
Okay, so why are you using the Department of Justice if they can lie?
because that's an acceptable source.
What does it mean for a source to be acceptable?
Well, in the terms of if you're having a political debate, the source would have to be something that is considered credible. If I was to cite a government website, if I was to cite a .gov, like the Department of Justice, that would be acceptable in a debate. If I was to say, yo, Henry down the street said that 5 cops killed this guy the other day, that's not an acceptable source.
Interesting. Well, I'm not saying that.
It should be. It should be
I'm using the
because
New
he
York
saw it.
Times. I'm using the New York Times, which would be considered a credible source.
Actually, the New York Times has some very, very bad stories in it.
But doesn't mean it's not a credible source.
Okay, why don't you look this up? See how many stories the New York Times has retracted this year or made modifications to.
Does not mean it's not a credible source.
Absolutely, it does. If they printed 1,000 stories and they did 1,000 retractions, that means that they're not credible.
Do you think they printed 1,000 stories?
Because how many times are you going to go back and check the retractions? So they can say whatever they want, retract it later, but you only read the first time that it came out, not the second.
You just really quickly, you think that the New York Times?
The person in the comments just said I follow Fox News. I'm not a conservative. I'm a Democrat. So there you go. I'm glad that you like to think that people who disagree with you only watch Fox News. Thanks. Oh, you turned the comments off. Thank you. I get it. I'm not debating the people in the comments. My bad. There's just a dumb person down there kept saying the same thing over and over again.
Give me a second.
Are you looking up how many stories they've retracted or had to make adjustments to?
Give me a second.
Yeah, this is definitely not the cord, bro.
All right, I'll take a look at it in a second. The New York Times only retracts about 6% of its articles every year. Seems pretty credible.
How many articles do they write every year? 6% is an awful lot.
They put out 200 pieces of independent journalism every day.
Okay, so 12 of them. So basically, every day.
Every day, 200 pieces of journalism.
So 6% is a lot.
I'm sorry?
Over the course of a year, 6% is a lot.
It's 5,000.
You said they put out how many stories a day?
200. They put out
what's that times 365?
73,000.
Okay, times 6%.
No, 5,000 is the number they retract per year.
So they retract 5,000, so they're wrong 5,000 times a year.
They're wrong 6% of the time.
That's awful for for someone who's putting. Yes, it is.
6% of the time to be wrong? Are you joking?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah, if a
understand how
scientist was wrong
statistics work?
6% of the time, if a scientist was wrong 6% of the time, people would be dead.
Scientists are probably wrong
If a
way
doctor
more
was
than
wrong
6% of
6%,
the time.
so would
6%
you
is
say
not
it's
a high
acceptable
number.
for a doctor to be wrong 6% of the time?
Doctors are probably wrong more than 6% of the time. Yeah.
And
I
you
would
think
I would
that's
argue doctors,
acceptable?
yes.
So someone operating on your heart being wrong 6% of the time, you'd be okay going to that doctor.
Yes. 6% is nothing.
Okay, how many people died because of COVID?
What the fuck does that have to do with anything we're talking about?
I'm just asking. It does have to do with the point I'm trying to make.
I don't know.
So it wasn't a lot. So not a lot of people died from COVID based on percentages. I mean,
Like per capita, no,
if
not a
six
lot of
percent,
people died
if
per
six
capita.
percent, you're saying 6% isn't a lot. I mean, then you know what? What's the percentage of people who died from COVID? Like 4%?
Wait, how often do cops solve crime?
I have no idea.
Like how often do they solve property crime?
Probably not a very high percentage.
Okay, 13%. So they effectively fail.
But no,
And
you're
no,
getting off topic. You're
I'm
going away from
not.
what I'm saying.
I'm not.
You said that 6% isn't a lot. I'm asking you if you don't think it's a lot, then that means not a lot of people died from COVID. And the leftists love
I
to
already
throw out how
answered
many
that.
people died from COVID in our
Wait, I
face, but
already
it's not a
wait,
lot. You just said it's not a lot.
wait, I'm sorry. Are you debating other leftists or are you debating me?
No, right now I'm debating you, and you just
Yeah.
said
Did I
6%
say
is not a
anything?
lot.
Did
So
I say
not a
any
lot of
did
people
I
died from
hold
COVID.
on. Did I say a lot of people died from COVID?
No.
Okay. So who are you
But
debating?
less than 6% of people died from
Who are
COVID.
you
You said 6%
did
is not
I
very
say a
big.
lot of people died from COVID? Did I say that? Did
A
I
lot of
ever
people
did I
did.
ever
No,
did
no, you
I
didn't.
say that? So then stop
No.
debating other people.
Okay, I'm debating you, and you said 6% isn't a lot. To make my
Correct.
point,
6% is
I'm
not a lot.
carrying that 6% over to COVID, and not a lot of people died from COVID.
Okay. I would say yeah, if we're looking at like per capita, not a lot of people died per COVID. Yeah.
Cool. So what's the point in getting the vaccine then?
I'm not talking to you about the vaccine. Are you pivoting?
I've got a
Nice
great
pivot.
chance.
Great
Well,
pivot.
I've
Amazing
got a
pivot.
great chance of surviving without it. Then
Amazing pivot. Doesn't stop my point that 6% getting 6% of your news wrong per year when you're putting out 73,000 pieces of news a year is not a lot of news that you got wrong.
what if the 5,000 stories that they put out cost people their lives? Then does it become an issue?
How does a news story cost someone their life?
How does a new okay there were news stories that came out about someone in Georgia. I gotta find the source. There was a news story that came out about a person in Georgia, and it was about a colored person in Georgia that did something, so a mob got together and went and murdered that person and unalived that person because of a news story that was wrong.
Do you have proof of this?
I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time. It just happened the other day.
Where?
All of these guys on all of these news sources that said that this recently, the man in Georgia who was shot. The news sources that first came out said that it just said unarmed black man killed by police after serving 16-year sentence wrongfully. All right, that was the news headline, but they didn't put any context to the fact that the person was attacking the cop.
I don't really care that he was
None.
attacking the cop. It kind of makes
You say
sense to
what?
me. I said I don't care that he was attacking the cop. It kind of makes sense to me that somebody who went into jail wrongfully for 16 years is not going to be trusting and probably be a little agitated and violent around cops. Doesn't shock me. Doesn't shock me at all.
So then his violence cost him his life, so it's his fault.
His violence cost. Yeah, I would say if he attacked the cop and he died from it, yeah, it's probably his fault.
Oh, okay, cool. So then the cop's cleared of all wrongdoing. That's nice to hear from a leftist.
I don't understand why you keep trying to debate other people right now.
I'm not. I'm debating you.
Are. You keep coming in with like these presupposed answers that I'm going to say. But you're not asking me my stance. You're just coming in and presupposing I'm going to have stance A, B, C, or D. That's not the case. And it's getting a little stupid.
So you're saying you don't hold these. So how are you a leftist if you don't hold these values?
I'm a leftist because I'm opposed to capitalism, specifically a Marxist. That's how I'm a leftist.
Oh, so you're a social leftist.
No,
you're
no,
more of a
I'm
fiscal
Marxist
leftist.
specifically. I'm a Marxist.
Oh, you're a Marxist. How's that working out for you?
What do you mean? How's that working out for me?
I'm just asking. I don't know a lot of Marxists. I don't know what kind of lives they lead.
I mean, I have a fairly decently successful Twitch channel. I mean, I think it's working just fine. talking about leftism and Marxist theory.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Like, what? The amount of pivots in the last 10 minutes of that fucking broke my neck.